Uh, Hey guys, it's Bobby Legs, and welcome to collection discussion, state of the collection stream with my friend Brad. Now, Brad, I had met through Random Rob's Discord server, and we did a couple Zoom meetings. We were at a couple Zoom meetings in the beginning of quarantine, right? We were
Yes,
in
that's
beginning of
right.
the Discord. I think that kind of coincided Rob's Discord and quarantine around the same time. It felt like, and so we did have some Zoom meetings, and we were both part of that, and that was a lot of fun. That's when I first met you. But Brad, before we get started, what is on your wrist tonight?
Casio, I call it my Clayton G-Shock. This is a Casio. It is a GST version,
Okay.
and it is probably my number one watch that I wear all the time. I'm not afraid to beat it up, and it has the size and wrist presence that I like. So that's what I'm rocking. What do you got going this evening?
Thanks for asking, Brad. I got the my Sarb 033 Seiko. It is a
Oh yeah.
rebuy. I had sold it a while back, and it was one of those. I I knew I was going to regret it. I knew I regretted it when I sold it. I was just like, why did I do that? And so the opportunity came recently to get it back in. I was looking to add it back in, and I was happy to do so. Let's say hello to some of the guys on the chat. Hey Joe, how you doing? Random Rob, how are you, sir? Jeffrey, thank you for coming in. There's Kevin S. Random Rob, I missed the Zoom meetings. Yeah,
Yes.
maybe we'll do it up again. On a Thursday night. But it's football on Thursday night. NFL's back, so it might be a little tough. Maybe we'll have to figure out some other time. The big wrist is here. MJ, hello, ladies. All right. That's funny. Ben, I wonder if Mike from MI will show up tonight, Michigan.
Probably not.
uh, I can hear B-Rad this week. All
Yes,
right.
that actually worked. I apologize for last week. Technical
Yeah,
difficulties, and
that's right. That's right. That's right. We can't skate over this, right? We had some technical difficulties, and we figured it out this week. We got together Tuesday just to make sure everything happened correctly, and then we tried it again. Was it like Wednesday or Thursday? I don't know. We tried it again another night,
got it
and
to work.
and then we finally got it to work, man. And that's all that matters. And you're here, and that's great. Um, So Brad, why don't you tell the guys who don't know you a little bit about yourself? You feel free to go as deep or not deep as you want, but just just so we can get an idea of the guy.
Okay.
Uh,
See if I
you
can
know,
put them to sleep before we actually get to the watch content. No, I grew up in Montana, and we lived at the top of a mountain, and our nearest neighbors were, a couple miles away, and so really, my youth was spent sort of being, creative and inventive in terms of, creating things to do, right? And
yeah,
wandering through the woods and learning, all of those types of, I'll call them survival skills, but at the time it was just having fun out in the woods and shooting 22s and all that fun stuff. We really didn't, as a family unit, we really didn't have money of any sort, and so I grew up, understanding the value of a dollar, and if you wanted something, you worked for it, and if you knew how to fix things, you could buy things that were not functional and enjoy the process of taking them apart and putting them back together and getting them to run, and then you had something that you paid 10 cents on the dollar for and enjoyed, and when you were done enjoying it, you could ultimately sell it. And so we would go to the same things that I'm sure that you did too. We would go to garage sales, and
hmm
the sticker that said a dollar on it didn't mean that it was a dollar. And you'd
right.
go up and you'd offer 50 cents, and you'd learn how to haggle, and you'd settle on 75 cents, and you went home with your bucket of Green Army men and or Lincoln Logs, and you were happy as a clam, and it was the same set that somebody else had, but it made the dollar that I had in my pocket from pulling dandelions or whatever the heck it was at that time. It made it go farther, and so along the way, we moved from Montana out here to Michigan, and I've been here ever since. But those life lessons of having to be able to be self-sufficient and to be able to tackle problems and solve them, have served me well my whole life. And so I think as we go through my collection, there'll be some similarities to how I like to collect and what makes it fun and enjoyable for me. There won't be any pieces in there that are one-offs that somebody else would be dying to have. There's no Rolexes and those types of things that are in my collection, but I'm presuming that there might be some relatable content in there for collections that your viewers might have, and they might identify with that journey that gives me a great amount of pleasure and fun along the way. So that's kind of the backstory. It will give you some credence to some of the things on the opening clip that.
Yeah, I mean, like now it's starting to make a little sense, so before we get into it, let's just say hello to some guys. Hey, Tennessee. Hey, Amin, how you doing?
Hey guys.
Kevin S, Michigander in the house.
Yeah.
And guys, feel free to put in the comments, what you're wearing tonight. We'd like to know as well. Watch wise.
Watch wise, please.
Watch wise, please. So this is great. So I'm just gonna start jumping right in. Let me get to the application, and let's see here. You can see my screen, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
I sure can.
So here's the opening screen. And so, Brad had sent me some pictures along with his watches, and I'm like, okay, I'm sure there's got to be a story behind this, right? So before we jump into the first watch slide in the collection, um, can you tell me something a little bit about I mean, I did put this together, right? This is some
Yep.
pictures you sent me,
Yes.
but feel free to share as much as you want here. I don't know if you want to keep some for later on, but just if you want to share and let me know,
Oh, sure.
please share.
Sure. These are things that are important to me in life. I think that we set the stage that understanding value and spending your money wisely is sort of a theme. At the end of the day, I became a CPA, and my specialty is business valuation. So I'm an appraiser at heart. I've been around appraisers of real estate and gem and jewelry and fine art and equipment and so forth my whole life. I tend to focus on the business side of things, and but it has that same curiosity in any of those disciplines where you're trying to understand what creates value, what takes value away, and those types of things. And so the images that I sent you are important components to me. That's a 1976 competition orange Corvette Stingray. That was a purchase that my father and I made when I was 17. And as you mentioned, I live in Michigan, which is in the Rust Belt. So any car that you buy, turns into $0 of value in a relatively short amount of time. And my father is a real estate appraiser, and so we think alike. I'm sure I learned it directly from him. Some of those thoughts. And our thesis was that the Corvettes at the were fiberglass, and they would not rust in the Rust Belt, and there was collectability to them. So you could purchase something wisely, enjoy it for a period of time, and sell it, and you essentially had the pleasure of owning it for nothing. And that orange, that competition orange, was most people think of the little red Corvettes or the white or the black Corvettes. There are very few orange Corvettes, and that always identified me around town. We're talking a 17-year-old, an 18-year-old when I was driving this at high school. Back in the mid '80s, that was a fun car to be in, and so I really enjoyed my time with that. And our thesis turned out to be true. When I sold it several years later, my wife says that it's because we decided to get married that I sold it so that she couldn't enjoy it. But at the same time, we turned it over, and it was true. We sold it. Actually, I sold it for more than I had paid for it.
Was the
And
76 significant in any way? The Corvette was like a birth
it
year
was not.
or
It was like
okay,
not like a split window or any type of model year changeover or anything
but
like
for
that.
you though, for like, is it like a birth year for you? I mean, I don't know how old you are.
It is not. It
Okay,
is not. Again, honestly, I think it was my dad urging me to buy a sports car that he could never have.
right, gotcha.
And again, it's not like we went and paid full retail for it.
Mm,
We set out a plan and purchased it wisely, and had a whole bunch of fun, and enjoyed it and turned it. And actually, it cost us nothing to enjoy that for years and years. But
that's awesome.
the theme that's going on here is that was my foray into sort of the world of orange,
Mm,
and I was known for that. Anybody around town would know that I was coming or going with that particular car, and that stuck with me. I enjoy my machinery and equipment. If you're familiar with the program, how it's made, you have some insight into how my brain works and what I think is pretty cool in the world, and watching how things are made and pushed out into products and services that you and I use every day. I find that fascinating, and so I don't have a sports car today, but I have my Kubota. It's a B7800, which is absolutely ridiculous for a 1 acre parcel
yeah,
of property. But I could plant a tree at a moment's notice,
yeah,
and so that orange theme continues there. And then you'll see as we go through the collection, I have an affinity for orange, and so that's why I wanted you to
yeah.
be able to highlight this. Is there's a reason that I'm attracted to that particular color, and so that's the thing. And I thought the bear thing was something that not everybody gets into. Being thrifty, I suppose. We were on a trip to Tennessee years ago, and we stopped by, of course, one of a million roadside places that had the carved bears, and the sticker shock was amazing. I can do that. So the Montana boy in me, picked up a chainsaw and made the ugliest pile of crap you've ever seen before, and I kept persisting, and finally got to where I could actually make it semi resemble a
That's awesome.
bear.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of fun. I make them for Christmas gifts and birthdays for people. And the tallest one I've done so far is 7 foot, something like that.
Oh
And
my, jeez.
so that's fun. I just thought it was maybe something that others would find interesting outside of my collection being relatively boring.
Well, I find it interesting, and I'll tell you why. I grew up in right outside of New York City, across the river in New Jersey, and I lived in an apartment most of my whole life. So, and now my wife and I, we were in Western New Jersey, close to Pennsylvania. We're 3.5 acres of land, and we had to like fend for ourselves and do a lot of work. And I have a chainsaw now. I have a brush mower, all this kind of stuff. And so fending or doing something, now this is not fending for yourself, making one of these things, but any kind of like skill with your hands, building something or carving something out of wood is totally fascinating to me. I mean, I hate to admit, but I love watching those, survival shows, or those people who live in Alaska, who can make like a satellite out of like a stick of gum and a piece of tinfoil. You know what I mean? Like that stuff,
Absolutely.
is
I
is
know
amazing.
exactly that. Yeah.
So I'm gonna start moving over, and we're gonna go
Yes.
to your first watch that you wanted to talk about, and that's an all beautiful watch, the Zodiac Seawolf. Tell me about this one.
So this is actually my father's watch. It is, as you said, it's a Zodiac Seawolf. It was a 1970 issue. I was born in 1970. My father was in the Navy. I was born on a naval base down in Pensacola, Florida. And he received this watch, which is inscribed on the back for being Outstanding Enlisted Man of the Year.
Mm,
And so it's very special from a family perspective. But it represents, as a young person growing up, not thinking anything about watch collecting, but just looking at Dad thinking about, oh man, all the cool stuff that Dad has. This watch at that time burned in my brain, that this is what the pinnacle of watch collecting must be, or what have you, is the diver. And so this particular watch resided in my dad's little. He had like I don't know, probably 1 foot little jewelry box, but it was in the form of a roll top desk, and it had two little drawers in it, and all of Dad's cool stuff was in there: the pocket watches and the silver dollars and the fluted pens and the
Hmm.
little buck knives, and this sat prominently on top of that. So that's permanently ingrained in my brain as something that's fun to enjoy, and so it gives me sort of a direction, if you will, later on in life as I started collecting, that I have an affinity for the dive watches, as do most of us. But this is kind of the genesis of what, when I think of a cool watch, this is that watch, and so I wanted to incorporate that as the start of my watch journey as we go through my collection.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us, when we start off, um, I certainly don't necessarily start off in a vacuum, right? I mean, like there is somebody who will influence us, or something that we see that catches our eye that really stays with us for a while and kind of like manifests itself in our art collecting. I mean, in our watch collecting. I saw that watch and I knew, I had a feeling that it was more than just a something that you may have picked up because you liked a vintage Zodiac. I knew that it was going to tie into it, and especially leading off the whole um,
Yes,
story. You know what I mean? So
and
very, very cool watch.
you're not
Yeah,
wrong. You said art. I call it functional art,
yeah.
and I'm endlessly fascinated by the craftsmanship that it takes to make. We downplay some of these less lower end watches, but there's still incredible engineering that goes behind
Hmm.
making them actually function and take a beating every day. And so I find that to be functional art, and I'll collect that type of art over a painting any day.
Yeah, no, absolutely, for sure. Now let's jump into the next one, and just bear with me here. Let's go here from this slide. And so now we have a couple other ones here, some that look like they've, have some age on it. Why don't
Yes.
you go through these as well,
Yes,
of course.
you'll start to observe that. I don't know if I'm a full-time hoarder at this point or not, but I certainly don't discard things. And so this particular collection is an evolution of my youth. So on the far right, well, I guess in total you're looking at about $75 worth of watches at this point. But on the far left, I'm sure it was a Kmart Blue Light Special. For those of you that are old enough to know what that is, that's an innovative time watch that I picked up as I was coming through high school, and you can see that it is
Yeah,
battle scarred, and it was the closest thing to what Dad had. And the bezel rotated, and it had the right color scheme, and all of that. So a fun watch that has stayed with me all these years. If you drift to the right, we start to head over towards Brad being interested in girls and trying to up the imagery here. And so
sure.
we've got a Seiko watch. The band is absolutely horrible. It grabs every wrist hair there is. But and if you look at the top at the 12 o'clock position, inside of that silver paint, way down deep, there might be just a speck of diamond dust in there. I'm not exactly sure, but
Gotcha.
boy, did I think, and this is the Miami Vice era. But boy, did I think I was sweet wearing that around, and so it has stayed with me as well. And it's taken some abuse, but was certainly a part of my journey.
I'm jealous that you've held on to these because I've had some Casios and some Fossil watches. I had a couple of Eddie Bauer watches, and I would, love to have been able to keep those. I don't know where they were. I probably was drunk and gave them away to somebody, or threw them out the window, whatever. It was college was crazy. But I wish I still had those. You know what I mean? Because I look at this and I feel like, man, I mean, you're chronicling, an important part of your life here, very formidable years of your life via watch. And I wish I had that, man. You know?
Yep, that's part of the memories and the experiences and the journey is part of why I keep them.
Hmm.
And if we move to the right, this is a no-name, brand watch. What's important here is the logo, the ASA. I mentioned my father was an appraiser, and I followed in his footsteps in slightly different pattern. But we both belong to an organization called the American Society of Appraisers, and that is the oldest and largest multidisciplinary appraisal society in the world. And he rose up through the ranks and became the international president
Mm.
for the ASA. And during his term, his year as president, he had produced these watches for distribution to those that were on the board and significantly assisted him throughout the year and all of that stuff. And I happened to pick up one of these for stuffing envelopes and all of those things over the years that helped him come up through this. So the watch itself is worth $1, but the memories that are
Oh
imprinted on
yeah.
that dial can't be replaced, and so it's a very important piece in my collection and part of the journey. The watch to the far right is a Wenger. It is represents there's nothing particularly special about it, other than it represented 10 years at the CPA firm that I'm still at today, and 10 years in a CPA firm is a pretty long stretch, and so I keep that as a memento of that period of time. So that's just bridges the gap as we start to get towards more serious collecting.
Awesome. Awesome. Speaking for all the ladies, hot, gold, black, and one diamond watch, Brad. So, like Woman Gamer, she's going to be on next week. So,
Diamond spec.
yeah. Um, and there, fellow
Yeah, there it
appraiser
is.
here.
All right,
There you
radio
go.
for two.
And MJ with the jokes. Do you have any watches that still work? Of course he does, and we're going to get
Yes.
to those very very soon. So speaking of, let me get to the right screen before uh, and just bear with me. Here we go. And from this slide. Okay. So Tag Heuer. So now, I mean, so do you get this watch, or is this the 90s we're talking about here? Because I know that in the mid to late 90s and early 2000s, I feel like I only knew two watch brands, Rolex and Tag was all over the place. They marketed themselves so well. So was this an influence? Or did you feel like you needed a Tag because of the marketing, or was this just something else?
Well, let's go back to my opening statement of who I am and how I collect and how I value things. This is absolutely the fakest tag that you've ever
Okay.
seen in your life, and
Full, you got
it
me.
has nothing. It has nothing from a collectability. It's worthless.
Right.
But as I mentioned, I'm a CPA. I'm in business valuation work. Years and years ago, we had started branching out into doing and leading mergers and acquisitions activity for the privately held clients that we service. And this, we were getting ready to close on our first major deal, and my mentor at the time, who is still my mentor today, we were going over, I'm sure, some of the things for the closing statement, and he reached in his drawer, desk drawer, and threw this watch over at me. He says, "Hey, put this on there. You should wear that tomorrow." And so, honest to God, I couldn't set the wristband at all, the bracelet, because I was afraid the pins would never go back in.
Yeah.
So I did wear it, and again, I enjoy tradition and so forth, and so the watch that you're looking at, as fake as it is, has been present on my wrist at hundreds of millions of dollars of transaction and the making of multiple millionaires, and so it stays in my watch box. It only comes out on closing day, only for the tradition and the memories. Otherwise, I'd be concerned about the green battery acid that would drip down on my wrist. So absolutely 100% fake, but priceless to me, as a part of my career.
Right. I mean, look, I mean, there's so many variations out there. I mean, it could have fooled me. You could have fooled me totally.
Not if
Um,
you picked it up.
not if I think everyone at a certain age must have owned a Swiss Army watch. I think I may have actually as well.
I certainly had
Um,
the knives for
they
sure.
certainly had the knives too. I actually had one recently, and last year got confiscated on me in the airport. I'm like, oh,
Oh,
it was good in Newark, but then when I went to Denver, they took it from me. So I was bummed about that. But it was, $25. Um, Clayton, he loves it. Love the multi-deal memento. Yeah, that is a great multi-deal memento, especially multi-million-dollar deal memento. And you have this fake tag, or but forget about that. It's just the sentimental value to it. The fact that your mentor toss it over to you, say, "Hey, put this on," and then you keep on doing it. You keep on
yes.
putting it on every
Only
deal after.
only on the closing date,
On the
and to me that's fun for me in
Absolutely,
some weird way. So I
yeah,
enjoy doing it.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, so let's move forward here. Now we start getting into some 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 Seikos here, and let me just you can see my screen. Seikos and Casios.
Yes. So
So yeah, so go ahead. Yeah.
this particular batch, these I call these my wife watches. So these are all the watches that my wife has purchased for me. So on the far left is actually a Citizens, and I had that for years when we first
Wow.
got married. That was one of the things that she had picked up for me. Um, Wore the heck out of it. Advance a little bit. That blue Seiko in the back. Just love that. Love blue dials. Love
Hmm.
dive watches. The bracelet is amazing. It has the right wrist presence for me, and I really started to enjoy it and make comments about it. And so um, she started to think of that in terms of important dates and so forth, to bring forth you know fun toys for Brad, and
Hmm.
so that's really where I started to get more seriously involved in watch collecting. Part of it is she works for Kohl's, and
Hmm. Yeah.
so Kohl's is an authorized dealer for Seikos and a bunch of other ones, but I gravitate towards the Seiko lineup more than anything else. And a couple of times a year, actually once a year in particular, you can the employee discount is amazing, and there's a concept called Kohl's Cash out there. Although none of the
Yeah.
Kohl's Cash ever ends up with me, I think it's a buyer's premium to her. But at the end of the day, you peel away all those discounts, and they're almost paying me to take the watch, and so
Hmm.
that really fueled my interest in studying different watch types and what I would like to add to my collection for enjoyment purposes. So if we move along the back row, that is a black Seiko. It is a perpetual kinetic, and it has never perpetual or kinetic at all. But we got that on our 25th wedding anniversary, and so I love it. It is all metal black. The dial is very unique in terms of the Seiko lineup, and so I love it. But its function is poor, and I'm not willing to send it in to have it maintained at this point. And then back to the orange concept on the far right, the Seiko Samurai. I loved that, and she got that for me for Christmas. And the front application is a G-Shock that she picked up for my 50th birthday this year. This has been a challenging year, and at the time she was not working as a result of
Right.
the pandemic and so forth. So for her to come up with that out of her funds is important to me, and will be staying in the collection accordingly. So these are the wife watches, and I enjoy them all.
Now, so does your speaking, you brought up your wife. I mean, does she get it, or does she kind of like how my wife, she just pats me on the back and be like, okay, this is your, let him have his fun as long as he doesn't like, bankrupt us or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, so is she supportive? I mean, she sounds supportive.
She understands. I mean, as you can see, this is I have a lot of things that I'm interested in, and so uh, she puts up with it more than anything else.
Gotcha.
But this is something that she knows that I enjoy tremendously, and she likes to participate in that. And we'll talk about some of the other pieces along the way here.
Absolutely. Okay, so let me go into yep. Okay. And okay.
Huh?
Oh, sorry.
Where are we
There we
headed?
go. Here we go. Monsters.
Now we're
Uh,
talking.
I love monsters. They seem to come in and out of my collection. I don't know why they leave, but I love them, and I love the passion of the people who collect them. So tell me about your monsters.
So this front one, this is the first watch that I ever bought from Random Rob, and off of his Sunday sales. I'm not even sure if it was a Sunday sale. I had to think about it. But that was my first purchase from him. I had been following him, as I was really getting into the hobby. Um, he, of course, as many of you will know, fawns over his orange monster, and it
Yeah.
has all of the design elements that are important to me. It has uh, the right wrist presence, and I love the orange as a general color, and I just had to have it. And
Hmm.
so, what's better than having one monster is having more than one monster, and that started down the line of picking up the monsters and the babies in the background that you see there. Absolutely love them. They are in the scratch and dent pile for most of them, except for the blue coral. That's almost mint,
Yeah.
and and so I wear them on a regular basis. They're not business watches per se, maybe Friday type watches, but on the weekends, these are some of the types of things that I'll gravitate towards. They just speak to me, and their design cues and the color palettes that they offer.
Yeah. I mean, I had a blue coral. That was the first monster that I'd owned. I was a little late to the monster game, and I just loved that pop. I loved the little yellow tip of the second hand. And I sold it, and that was like, other than the SAR, that monster was my next biggest watch selling regret. And now the prices on them, they're
Yes,
they're creeping up. You know,
yes.
so to me, it just didn't make any sense. And then I did have an opportunity getting a second gen orange monster, and I had that, and I bought it, and then I sold it after a couple of weeks. And I don't know why. I don't know why,
Well,
Brad. But
I don't mind that at all, Bobby. I need people like you to flip them so that I can get them at a discount. I'm just running around trying to catch the crumbs from all you guys that have something for 7 seconds and flip it for the next new thing. And so I need you guys. So keep doing that,
you you
and don't
got
be
it.
offended at what I offer.
Oh man. So let's get back to the chat here and see if we have anything over here. Yeah, Monster Mash. Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah. Tennessee also has he's got a monster. I think he's got does he have the Mike, do you have the Jade or is it the Blue Coral? You have one of those.
he does.
Uh Monster
He's going
Reebok.
to sell that to me one day. He doesn't know it yet, but that's a running thing in the group.
Oh man, that's
Actually, I think
awesome.
there's a handful of people that want that particular watch.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's the thing, though, Brad. I mean, like, those, within Rob's Discord, if you guys are not familiar or not sure what we're talking about, um, there is a section for Flippers Paradise, and monsters just don't, people put up their watches for sale, and if it's a monster, that just doesn't blast, right? I mean, that goes like when I sold my that orange one about 2 months ago, like it was like within minutes. I mean, maybe even less than that. Before somebody had reached out to me, and I had a couple of people reach out to me. So and it is the jade monster, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Daniel, I haven't gotten bit by the monster bug. Yeah, I mean, like it kind of snuck up on me. I don't know about you, Brad, but it snuck up on me. You know what I mean? The monster bug. Was it love at first sight for you?
Oh yes, and I love the fact that it's not for everyone. Some people don't like the design cues,
Hmm.
and that's fine by me. But I gravitated to it immediately
Yeah.
and had to have one. Now, had to have one doesn't mean I went out and got it immediately.
Hmm.
I very much enjoy, I'm looking for the value proposition. I
Yeah.
enjoy the hunt equally to actually
Yeah. Of
owning
course.
something, and I know that they made more than one of them, and so if I'm patient enough and I love making offers, and if we don't have a willing buyer, willing seller, that's fine by me. I'm on to the next one, and I'll continue the hunt and enjoy the journey of finding the watch as well as actually owning it and then owning the story of how I acquired the watch. Those are all important parts to my collection enjoyment.
Is it important for you to get, since you have multiple monsters, is it important for you to get each generation? Is that a
It is
thing?
not, it is not.
Is,
Everything that I have is pretty much first generation. I just enjoy the colorways that are available and deployable. Orange isn't deployable in all of the environments that you might wish to use it in, even though I love it the most. But blue is a little more subtle. You can work the black one in there. I just had to have that blue. Blue coral is just super sharp in the sunlight. It's just amazing, and I just had to have that one. I probably paid more for that one than I really should have, but I wanted it and added that to the collection.
yeah, gotcha. Okay, so let's go on to the next. And we have some solar watches here.
Oh yes, these are sexy. These are I would call these are my business watches. These are my everyday at the office watches, and these are all of the Couture lineup by Seiko.
Hmm.
The far three to the right are all the Radio Sync Solar, and so I really enjoy when you keep them in the box and you open them up and take them out in the air. They're spinning and whirling and realigning for the appropriate time, and I just love that mechanical aspect to them. The taper on the bracelet and the bevels on the interior of the bracelet. It's super comfortable. It has just the right weight for me. So good wrist presence and certainly works in a lot of business environments. The far right one is the first Couture that I ever had, and and I just loved it so much. I started to add it. I added the black one. Those are the two that probably get the most wrist time. Then, as you mentioned in the Discord group, there's a lot of the sub chats, and everybody was getting the Bling Masters, and we've all heard Rob go on and on about them on his videos in the square category. And I don't own a single square, and I don't. It doesn't call to me.
Hmm.
But the gold one there is my representation of
When,
the
yeah.
bling master in the Couture lineup that I can wear whenever I get out my uh, big gold necklace and head off for a 70s party or something like that. But uh, no, so I love them. They are beautiful works of art, if you will, functional art, and that represents my business watch collection.
So let me ask you a question here. So we've heard you talking about how you grew up and how you tried to make stuff out of nothing, kind of like, that's not the exact word you said, but like, living on top of a mountain, you kind of had a, you as
We
and
invented
your
our own
family,
fun.
right, right. Or, but you also had to sustain yourself, right? So do you think, has this is this a thought in your mind that because of your um, how growing up self-sustaining, self-sustainability, is that a reason why you're attracted to solar watches?
Um, I think
Could that be?
it's cool, the functionality.
Hmm.
Again, the design engineering that went into that is really amazing if you actually stop and think about it.
Hmm.
You know, we wear these things on our wrist, and we go and life happens with them on, and they continue to function for the most
Right.
part. And I know, you know, some of the folks, you know, in this group, you know, sweat over every second that it's plus or minus. I never worry about that. It's absolutely amazing that it can be that close over uh, such a period of time that and abuse that we put them through. So I really enjoy, you know, the fact that they're, you know, yeah. I don't know, Rob. I don't know. You'll have to send me one to try, but it just doesn't speak to me.
MJ, why no Solar Citizen?
I do have a Solar
Yeah,
Citizen.
yeah,
It didn't make the photo lineup, but I do have a Solar Citizen.
yeah, because the only reason why I bring that up is like every time I see any of these like roughing it kind of shows and people living out in the woods. I mean, they depend on solar for their electric. So I had this picture of you. I mean, living on a mountain in Montana, even though maybe I don't know if I don't think solar was available or maybe as widely available as it was back then, but uh, you guys sustaining yourself and making that connection. Although maybe if you don't consciously think of it, I think subconsciously there is that connection there.
It's possible.
Um,
My first solar panel is sitting right over there on the floor. Came in a couple days ago, so
yeah,
I'm venturing into that world. Self reliance is a thing at this point, so
yeah.
it's something that's on the agenda.
Well, let's talk later on in the next couple of days because I'm thinking about throwing a solar panel on the barn that I have over there and generating power there because I got a treadmill that I need to get
Ah,
juice for.
go check out Santan Solar out of Arizona.
Okay,
They're a wholesaler of the when the big solar farms switch out the 250 or 300 watts for the next 400-watt version. They wholesale them out, and the cost per watt is absolutely outstanding.
excellent. That's what I like to hear. There is some appeal to me, in regards to being self efficient. I don't know. I just know if the world went, something happened. I mean, I'd be dead
Yes,
after a day. You know
yes.
what I mean? And I gotta and I gotta learn. I gotta learn.
Wi-Fi
Okay,
doesn't work, and we're all in trouble.
I know, is right. Okay, so we have Bulova and Seiko. So these look pretty dressy here too, as well.
Yes, these I think these are funny. It is if you know me and maybe you're picking up on sort of my sensibilities. These are absolutely the other end of the spectrum. I would never wear these ever. They're on the blingy side of things, but they. My wife and I have date night kind of a thing is when we could we would run down to the casino, and we each put have a $20 bill, and she likes to play the little nickel slot things, and we'll go down there and spend $20 and have a good time and pick up some secondhand smoke along the way. And everybody else down there, heading down into the Motor City, you'll see some blingy things. And so I thought it would be entertaining if we had our bling watches that represented casino night.
It's awesome.
And so I wear the Seiko on the
Yeah.
right, and she wears the Bulova on the left, which I think is hot, but that's just me.
Yeah,
And so we roll down there with our silly bling watches on, and we have a great time. And that's the only time that we wear them. But again, it represents something that my wife and I do together and find enjoyable.
that's awesome. My wife and I, we just go to Flyers games, Philadelphia Flyers games. That's what we do. That's what we do together. That's our romantic night out. But of
Wow.
course, we haven't
I'm
been
not sure
able to
they
do
used
that.
romantic words at the Philadelphia Flyers
No,
arena.
but so like I always tell my wife I'm gonna catch a punch because of her mouth. She's the biggest heckler, and then if there's somebody from who's a fan of another team, she gets on them too. And one of these days I'm definitely catching a punch, man. Totally.
Uh, uh,
Okay, let's see here. Uh, yeah, but now I need a casino night. Yeah, casino watch. Yeah, we all do. Oh yeah, that casino watch would be awesome. That's it. I never really put a thought about that, but that would be great. Okay, so let's go into the next slide. Okay, and Hamilton and Seiko here.
Yep,
So
these
there's some
are
classics here.
there's some classics.
Yeah,
I like them. These represent my fun watches. I love the Flightmaster. Look at the dial. There's all kinds of
yeah.
busyness going on. The yellow secondhand marker,
Hmm.
the domed glass, all of that. Love it. I'm 50 now. I can't read a single thing that's on that dial face. I just know that I love it. And who doesn't need a Hamilton khaki?
Absolutely.
Just amazing
Yep.
machining. They got everything right with this watch. I love the fact that the day is spelled out,
Hmm.
and so this is why it's in my collection. I don't wear it a lot. I look at it a lot, and
Yeah.
I admire the craftsmanship that went into it. On the far right is another Radio Sync Solar Seiko. It is huge. I love the wrist presence. That's an important element to me. I do not love the titanium where you almost can't feel the watch. I
Mm.
appreciate that others love that type of watch. It just doesn't fit with my particular tastes for knowing that the watch is actually on my wrist.
So how big is your wrist? While we're at it, it's just so give people the
In the 7.25 range.
Okay, so you got a decent sized wrist there. So you prefer bigger watches, I would imagine then. Is that what you're
I
saying?
do.
Yeah.
I don't overly love the 38 millimeter ones. I have several of them, but I prefer the larger size watches.
Kevin, how hard was it to get that NATO on the Flightmeister?
Wasn't hard for me at all. It came that way. They actually came to me that Flightmaster and the Hamilton was the first time that I ever met Random Rob in person. He brought them down. We happened to be doing some other things. He was down our way and picked them up there, but it was already set on that band, and I like it just the way it is.
Excelente. Okay, now we will be heading towards my part of the country and the Islander.
Yes.
Yellow.
Again, this is who doesn't love a bumblebee? At least
Yeah.
it speaks to me. Mark did a great job with
Hmm.
this, and in my watch collecting journey, Random Rob and Bruce Williams and Mark over at Long Island Watch are the three that I would watch every single night, every episode that they put out,
Right.
and appreciating the effort that they put into it. I mean, Random Rob, brings that day to day sensibility, and I get to store information about watch values and brands and what's important and what's not important and in the watch. And so I would watch that nightly as a part of my downtime in the evening. And Bruce Williams, love his style, his delivery mechanisms. Teaches me a little something different. He does some production quality type offerings that
Hmm.
are out there, and I've dabbled in some of that, and so I can appreciate the effort that goes into creating those. And Mark really does. He certainly has a retail environment that he's trying to reach. His customer base,
Right.
and that's certainly one thing. But what I wanted to do was find a way, to support those, and I think Bruce and Rob would tell you that I try and find a way to support the efforts that they're pushing their um, content out into the world.
Hmm.
And I want to do the same thing for Mark. And as I work with a lot of privately held businesses, beyond the fact that this is a beautiful watch with all types of good components in it, I can appreciate the sleepless nights that Mark must have had as he contemplated the different design cues as he navigated, doing transactions overseas and the import export type
Sure.
components and taking a risk, putting real dollars on the line to order on the IFCOM, watches that he, I'm sure was uncertain, what would the popularity of those be. And so, this, of course, first and foremost speaks to the design elements that are important to me and spoke to me, but it is a way for me to, also give back to Mark in the form of the content and the information that I've learned from him. So that watch stays in my collection as a result of that.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you in regards to Mark. I think another thing that we can add to that is that Mark is very, very savvy and he knows what his customer wants.
Yes.
So while he did take a leap of faith here when he first started putting out the Islanders and putting his money, I think he also knew that he the chances are that he had a winner here because he does listen to everybody. He does, he does know that he did know that people wanted the SKX a little bit more with maybe a slightly better movement, sapphire crystal. They didn't want a mod. He was starting to do some mods for people on his site, but then he decided to fill a space here with the Islander. And I've owned a couple of Islanders in my collection. They've usually come in and they've usually gone out. That's nothing to say or negative to say about the Islander itself. It's just that's the way it works. I have a review channel, and
Yes.
I have to do that. However, that Yachtmaster one with the blue dial
Oh, yes.
is a beauty. I think it's the ISL 18, and now that he's going to be coming out with a red second hand, which is going to even look even we're taking more of a design cue from the Rolex Yachtmaster, and I know that's going to be limited. It's going to be a hot watch. That one I'm going to definitely jump on and keep because that is the same exact. When I started getting into modding, and when I started, I mean I started as quickly as I ended it as quickly as I started it, right? Because it is not easy. And I was inspired by somebody had done a Yachtmaster type mod, and I failed terribly at making it. And when I saw that Mark was coming out with that ISL 18, or when he came out with that, I was like, wow, that's exactly the watch that I wanted to get. You know, wow, Ricky, thank you. Hello, Bobby. Cool collection, Brad. Cool combo on the SNA 411. I'm gonna get that NATO for mine. Thanks again, Ricky. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. That's awesome of you, man. Um, so when he releases that, I know he's going to do a limited run. He said 100, maybe 200. I don't know when that's going to happen, but he seems to make these announcements like around 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So every day at 2 p.m., I'm going to make sure that
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
online because I that one is definitely going to stay in my collection because that
Oh, yes.
dial was brilliant and beautiful. And you know, every single one I got, and I have maybe like four or five, the quality was there, and you can attest to that. I mean, you have one yourself.
That's right.
That yellow pops, and it is such a great looking watch. Um, so now that I've chatted your ear off, let's go to the last slide that we have, and that is the Waldorf. Tell me about this one. I don't know if I've heard of Waldorf. I said made in Germany, kind of just piqued my interest. Is this a real German watch, or is this?
So you are directly responsible for this watch acquisition, as you alluded to in the opening. You were starting to have, sort of the Zoom meetings to talk about German watches, and I really hadn't explored that at all. And I thought, well, if I'm going to participate in these and listen, then I want to experience one. And this came up in the Discord, and I picked it up. It's fully mechanical
Wow.
with an 80-hour power reserve, and so I have always wanted sort of the skeletonized version of a watch, and this fulfills that category. But the God's honest truth is that I picked it up so that I could fit into your Zoom meetings and not be an outcast. And so,
Oh, come on. You know, anybody was welcome to those, man. But I mean, that is awesome that you're doing this. You jumped into the German watch pool. I think that that's great, and you know my feelings about that,
oh, absolutely.
and I hope this watch is serving you well. It is a good looking watch, man. I got to tell you that much. Very good looking. Um, so now this is the part where I kind of ask, like, so I think I understand like your typical style of collecting. You do have a lot of sentimental pieces. You do look for watches that have a great value proposition. You're willing to wait. Do you do you have do you set goals in regards to watches? I know you set goals with some monsters, but do you specifically um, hunt for a watch? Do you already know what you're gonna get, or is it kind of like whatever comes by in front of you, you just grab? Um,
Hmm. No, I think I fixate on a particular watch style. I'm less, concerned about the condition, so to speak.
mhm.
But I fixate on it. I enjoy studying about the watch. I enjoy studying the market, and I call it trolling. I'm always trolling along for that particular brand. I don't just focus on one. I might have, 6 or 7 of them that I'm really interested in acquiring for some particular reason or another. But I enjoy the search every day. Not
Yeah.
not today. It wasn't today. It wasn't today. And then when one pops up, it also might not match up with the value proposition that I'm looking for. And I enjoy the offer, and I enjoy the rejections too. I'm trying to
Yeah.
find out where a meeting of the minds can occur, and I'm very patient, and I'll watch them sit where they price them up
Hmm.
here, and I'll watch them
Hmm.
work their way down,
Yeah.
and I know that my entry point is somewhere down the line when the masses have gone away, and I'm the last guy. I'm overly dramatizing it, but when I'm the last guy in the room, my price doesn't look as outrageous as maybe it might have been on day one of the listing. And so I enjoy that part of it, and being extremely patient, and it makes it that much more sweet when I actually acquire what it is that I was seeking. If that makes any sense to you.
Absolutely. Now, so having said that, is there something in the horizon that you're looking for specifically?
Oh yes, well I can't tell you that, or then nobody will ever.
Right.
But no, I one of the fellows has a Marine Master that is absolutely stunning, and I think that I would maybe step up to the plate at some point to try and experience that. I think it has the right risk presence and weight to it. So I think that is something I will experience at some point along the way. So I have a few things like that, but I'm definitely a sub $1,000 player,
Hmm.
and so that would if I get above that, it kind of ruins the fun for me. I'd be extra careful with it.
Right.
I'm wearing the Clayton G-Shock, and I paid next to nothing for it. He called it scratched and heavily used, and I got it, and I couldn't find any scratches. But if that's what he thought a used watch looked like, it's not my definition. And I'm banging on the table. That didn't bother me at all. That didn't bother me in the slightest bit. So, um, but yeah, no, I enjoy it.
Now, good question by Rob. What is your batting average? What is this? Any idea of rejection versus made deal ratio?
Oh well, it's better than Jerry's. I mean, Jerry offers $1, so which I appreciate. I grew up watching, The Price is Right, so I certainly know to open at $1, but I try not to offend, but I'm also trying to find the bottom, and sometimes I'll get the screw you type response or whatever,
Yeah.
and that's fine. I'm never trying to offend anyone. I'm just trying. Part of my journey is to see if I can find what the absolute least is that you're willing to take, and the most that I'm willing to pay, and so I would say I get rejected way more than that, or at least my first offer gets or yes, my first offer gets rejected. I'm patient and I will wait, and my offer might look better 2 days, 2 weeks,
Sure.
a month later, and the email lights up or the phone rings, and we're able to strike a deal. I'll come up, they'll come down, and to me that's a lot of the fun. But out of the gates, I get rejected more than accepted, and that's perfectly fine with me. I understand completely.
Kevin making a suggested recommending a used Seiko Astron for your collection. Looks like some of the guys. Kevin also likes the idea of the Marine Master. So does Daniel.
Yes, nope, definitely,
Under
definitely a
1,000.
sexy watch for sure.
And MJ likes your under $1,000 watch rule. Basically, you're counting on the first offer to be declined. That's what Rob is saying.
Well, I don't set my expectations at immediate yes. It's an exploration for me to understand where the seller is at, and I think I know what the value proposition is. I'm trying to buy it to protect my interest. The seller, in my opinion, is usually has something. The guys in the chat groups, say squirrel, and they're looking over. They're busy looking over here at something else, and when you put something up for sale, I know that you've made an emotional disconnect from that particular piece, and have already mentally moved on from it. I'm just trying to figure out, where you will part with it in a way that meets my value expectations to preserve or protect my interest in that watch. Not that I never sell anything, so it's silly to say I'm trying to preserve value because I'm over in the hoarder column. I have no intention of selling anything that I showed you this evening, but that's how my mind works and how I approach, quite honestly, my career, uh, my job, my profession. I'm always thinking about those things that create and detract from value, and that's important to me.
CeeLo or Clo27 has a suggestion. Get the Crafter Blue Strap, rubber strap if you buy the MM300. I've been looking at Crafter Blue Straps as well.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely, quality
very,
product.
very, very nice. And that's the thing. Now, do you switch out bracelets and whatnot on your watches to keep it fresh, or you just like the way they look and that's how you keep them?
I enjoy acquiring the tools, as you can see. I mean, we
Yeah.
could weld something right now if you wanted to. So I enjoy collecting tools. So I have acquired all of those things and enjoy tinkering. But quite honestly, for the most part, I don't move them around.
Mm,
I bought them because I enjoyed them the way that they sat.
yeah.
And so I appreciate them at that level. I am more of a bracelet person than the NATO, and so I'm not shooting spring bars all over the place, changing them daily. I wish I had the time for that. I don't, but I appreciate those of you that do and share with me how to mod things. I'm always working on, could I do that, and building that confidence. And so I have the ability to do it. I just do not have the time necessarily to do it right at this point in my life.
Jeffrey's suggesting have a loom shop build you a Marine Master you want, really clean work. Yeah, the
Oh
problem
man,
is,
yeah, this stuff is awesome.
the problem is, can you, what's the waiting list on the loom shot?
Yeah,
Doing
how
a,
am I going to get him to do it for half off?
yeah,
I don't see where we're going to have a meeting of the minds. I love Loonshot and the work that he does, man. He's amazing.
yeah. And Daniel's asking, so do you have a grail? Is there something that maybe, um, so the people define grails differently. Some people define grails as something that's unattainable, that you're always pining for, or something that you finally get that may take a long time to get. Do you have anything like that?
I unattainable. I mean, there's lots of things that are attainable, but unattainable for me is my willingness to spend that level of dollar to
Mm,
acquire that piece. I really think that the Rolex Air King, there's a few of the guys that have those. Those speak to me more than the Oyster Perpetuals. I enjoy the design cues there. That might be something that I could envision owning and enjoying it. So if I had something that was in the Grail category, that would be something that I would put on my list.
all right. Tennessee Mike is Jade Monster.
Well, he's already going to sell me that. We just haven't reached a price yet.
I was asked, how many miles is on the Prius?
Oh, good lord! I have three Priuses now. So the one that I drive,
Three.
270,000 or something like that,
Yeah. So you have the Prius, your wife,
and my daughter.
and
Yes,
your daughter.
yes. But we all drive a lot, so it makes
Sure,
practical
absolutely.
sense, which would be a theme, right?
Yeah, no,
Right.
we're still driving my wife's um Honda Civic, which is also a hybrid, and that's close to 170, 180,000 miles, and we have a RAV4 hybrid as well. For the kids. I mean, well, they're not driving it, but they, to get them around, of course, and we're putting a lot of miles on that too. For me, car. I mean, I love car. My favorite car of all time is a Grand National, right?
Oh
I
yeah,
just love the Grand National. I just love the way it looks, the
5 miles to the
horsepower.
gallon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Um, and I loved muscle cars growing up. Stingray Corvette, one of my favorites, right? I don't know anything about like the years or whatnot, when the best model was. I wasn't a gearhead. I just liked muscle cars, right? But for me now, and it was important for me when I was younger to have the nice car, even though I didn't really have a nice car. But for me now, that kind of stuff is a little less important. Like I rather have a decent watch, than drive a Benz. You know what I mean? Like that stuff is not as important to me anymore. And but that's just a product of our age. I mean, we're roughly the same age. I mean, so our taste may change in time. How we value things definitely
Mhm.
change in time,
Oh, for
and
sure.
uh, and whatnot. So let's do a couple more comments, and then we'll call it a night. Well, did I tell you an hour was going to go by really quick?
It did.
Uh,
There,
oh,
if you could do me one favor,
yeah.
there's one more slide on the deck, and I won't talk long
Oh,
about it.
oh no,
But
you're right. I'm sorry. No, there's actually
it's
a couple more.
important.
I'm my bad.
Go to the one that has a lot of the watches. That's an important slide for
Sure,
me.
sure, sure thing. I told you know what on the left hand side it scrolls down, and so is it this one or this one?
That nope, not that one. Go to that one. Yes, please. So this is an important part of the collection, and we've talked a lot about the guys in Discord and watching different channels come up in podcasts and people really exploring new aspects of of life and putting themselves out there in the world. This represents a collection of watches that I've picked up from a very special group inside of the Patreon group, the Discord group, and and so I keep them all for different reasons. There's watch from Jerry. There's a couple watches from Tennessee Mike. There's a watch or two in there from Craig, and I keep pointing out my daily watches. Clayton's in the background, and I picked up that Zelos Great White, which must be an inch thick on the top, and I picked that up from Dane, and that's a super fun watch. And the G-Shock in the background with the black on blue matches my Fat Tire bike back there. And I picked that up from Michael, who's just an amazing individual. So this particular collection, there's no massively valuable watch there, but the collection from the guys that have inspired me and pushed me to do something like this tonight. Dirk and Tennessee Mike and Rob and Clayton and Michael all pushing content out in the world that's beyond maybe my comfort level outside of a business environment. And so I really appreciate their friendship and how I acquired these watches. My favorite story of the group so far is the front. There's a Tissot in the front, which looks fairly plain vanilla from the front facing, but has a beautiful basket weave to the side and a display back. And so I had picked that up. But the fun part of the story is this represents at least as he tells it, the first loss that Tennessee Mike actually took on a flip watch, and he had to explain it to his wife, and she said, I thought you told me this was an investment. And so I enjoy that particular story a great deal, and so this particular collection was important that it made the broadcast for all those reasons.
Wow, that's great, man. I feel like you're and we're both guys, so we can say this to each other. I feel like you're like a romantic in heart. You know what I mean? Like maybe not like romantic, like romance, but like there's like some sort of like passion and love. You know what I mean? Like there's something sentimental
Yes.
about how you view things, and And I
Yeah,
think that that's really awesome, man. I didn't expect this side of you. I mean, I barely know you, you know what I mean? Except for our communication, talking about watches, but I didn't know anything personal about you, and I think that's great. And way to tell a story about yourself through your watch collection, man. That's awesome. That is awesome.
awesome. Well, I appreciate you having me on. This was super fun and a little bit outside my comfort zone. And Dirk, I didn't have any pictures of knives, but I over in my over in my safe, I have 5 knives that are the result of your madness over there.
I have a
And
couple too. I have a couple because of Dirk, for sure.
so it's super fun to be a part of these guys. I agree with you completely. It's the connections that we make, and quite honestly, at the end of the day, I could travel anywhere in the country and probably run across someone who shares a similar passion for watches and life in general, and to sneak by and share a water and a burger or something, to me, is an important part of life. We're only here for a brief time, and encapsulating those memories that, happens to be in this case about things, but the memories and the relationships and all of that are a very, very important part of my life, just in general. And Dirk, you're not sorry. I know you're not.
Well, Brad, guys, thank you for joining us tonight. Brad, again, thank you so much. I'm glad I was able to convince you to do this. You did resist me a little bit in the beginning, but I knew it was going to be good. I knew it was going to be good, and you
Radio
and you
for two.
and you delivered, man. You delivered.
Awesome. I
Guys,
had a blast.
thank you. Thanks again, Brad. Guys, thank you for stopping by tonight. And next week, Black Woman Gamer and her collection, which is
Yes.
awesome as well. Look forward to doing that and seeing you guys next week. Have a good night, guys. Take care.